So earlier today, I was driving through town and I had an interesting experience where there was a younger guy dressed in full motorcycle riding gear, and he was on one of those stand-up scooters. Now, the stand-up scooter was the type that could go a decent speed. I mean, the max speed. I actually have one a lot like it. Is probably 20 to 22 miles per hour, and he was riding it in the road. And he wasn't riding it kind of on the road off to the side. It was a 4-lane highway with a center left and right turn lane, and he was riding it dead middle of the slow lane of the traffic, the direction I was going. He was blocking a car that I was passing, and he was shameless about it. I mean, he was right there, and it caused me to be irritated because I thought, get out of the way, get off the road. Like you're blocking traffic, and I get what you think you're doing because he had it maxed out. I mean, you could tell he was going that 20, 22 miles an hour, but traffic was moving at 45. So he was creating a nuisance, and after I passed him, he then crossed over those lanes and got into a double left turn lane, and he got on the inside left-hand turn lane and waited for the signal there. And in my opinion, he should have absolutely been on the side or even on the sidewalk. This is a lightly walked section of road where we were, and he could have been on the sidewalk riding it without interrupting any pedestrians. And then using crosswalks, at signals. And it pissed me off. I was like, I wanted to. No, not only I wanted to, but after I passed him and looked at him and with a, what are you doing? Sort of look. He didn't look over it. It's just this was just something that was happening in my world. I said, "Get off the road." Like I said it out loud, and I projected that. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because I believe wholeheartedly in that there are no absolutes, that there are no absolute ways to look at one thing or another. Now, I don't know if he legally was unable to ride in that lane as though he were a vehicle. I don't know the law well enough. I think he couldn't. I don't think he could because he was actually impeding traffic, which I think is the law there, that you can't impede the flow of traffic. And if that he potentially could have been pulled over and talked to by a police officer over that. But the reason why I'm bringing all of this up is because like I say, I do not believe that there are any absolutes. And so in my mind, I ended up thinking, your position on whether or not he should be there needs to be dropped off, because whether he's impeding traffic or not, if I had rolled down my window, caught his attention, and actually yelled at him to get off the road, I would view my reaction as the failure over his, because who am I to say that person needs to be scolded by my position, my opinion on what he's doing. He obviously has his opinion on what he's doing. He's doing what he's doing because he feels like he can, and he feels like he's in the right. That's what we do as humans. We go through this life behaving in ways that we view as acceptable. And who am I to question his position on this matter just because I had a different position? And that's what I mean when I say that that my belief that there are no absolutes kicked in. And while it's not necessarily a good example, the best example, because like I said, there are most likely laws that state that he should not be driving in there, driving on the road. I may have been in the right to say you don't belong in traffic, but I still needed to reflect on whether or not I was in any sort of right to have potentially rolled down my window and shouted at him, Because in that practice of me recognizing that even in that moment that my position that he was in the wrong is not the absolute final say, that he was, so long as he doesn't get pulled over and he's doing the things that he's doing, who am I to make that decision on his life? And the reason why I say that there's value in it is because it's the most important thing in this situation, at least for me, is that I keep reflecting on when I think I'm right and realize that my position is not the only position. That is where I've been for, I'd say, a couple years now, and I've been building from, and I've been enjoying, because it does get me to reflect on moments like that where there is somebody who is potentially doing something really that's wrong, and I end up reflecting on whether or not my position is the right one or their position, the other person's position, is the right one. And the truth is, neither of them are absolute, and neither of them should be enforced by us, the average humans just moving through this world. And the reason why I wanted to make this video is to kind of start this exploration of who I am with the general public on what it means to be a person in this day and age, and moving through with all of these things that we see and all of these conclusions that we're getting information from all these sources to build our opinions. We've become so strongly opinionated that we're right, that we can't even recognize that there are multiple ways to view any given situation that we find ourselves in. And that's kind of the message I wanted to put out here on this channel. Is the first, should be the first video that I post, and I wanted to, if it's not the first, it's the first one where I'm really creating an analysis. But I wanted to share this this challenge that I'm giving to myself of stopping believing that because I've thought it, that it's true or that it's absolute. Because there's the truths can, there can be two truths about one thing. That's just the truth. So, but it's really important for me to make sure that I'm always checking myself on when I've decided that somebody is doing something wrong. And what I find happens is that maybe not 90% of the time, I'd say a solid 85% of the time, I find that when I slow down and reflect, that I can live with the reactions of what is happening without outside of what I would prefer to have happen, Gosh, and see, I want to stray into other videos, but I'll stick with that. I'll stick with this for now. That this was a lesson for me, and in the ongoing lessons that I'm exploring, of understanding that that there are no absolutes. There's nothing that is absolutely right that any of us are thinking and going about. We put our feelings into believing that they are absolute, but they're not. And I'm not saying that they're not. Mostly, there may be things that are 99% absolute. Maybe there's something that's 100% absolute. Because again, that's me saying there are no absolutes. So I can't stand here and say that there's absolutely no absolutes. But that would be a contradiction. But I do want to say that if you find yourself in those positions where you're like, hey, you did that wrong, recognize that they're fine in doing what they did. and it doesn't have to be that you need to confront those people, or even in your mind confront them, and try and find those releases of absolute positions wherever you can, because in doing that, hopefully you get to we can all get to a point where we allow other people to live in the way that they've chosen to. Thanks for watching.